Welcome back to the Sales Genius Podcast and War Games Group. I'm your host, Joe Ingram. Today, we're thrilled to have Karan Nijhawan, an expert in scaling businesses and building personal brands. He's going to be joining us. Karan has helped countless entrepreneurs create impactful personal brands using nothing more than their cell phone and Wi-Fi. We'll have to ask him if it's iPhone or if it's Android, or does it matter? But okay, so again, in this episode that we're going to be doing that, he's going to share proven strategies for creating a powerful online presence that drives business growth. Whether you're new to personal branding or looking to elevate your current brand, Karan's insights will provide you with the tools you need to succeed. So let's go ahead and get ourselves started, shall we?
Welcome to War Games, hosted by the sales genius Joe Ingram. If you're looking to win the sales battle, then you have joined the right team. In the War Games Group, we devise strategies for sales, marketing, branding, mindset, and attitude. We enlist the assistance from the most successful producers across all industries. We then share their knowledge and techniques with you. Our single goal is to get you ready for your next sales opportunity. When it comes to crossing the minefield of sales, step in the footprints of those that have crossed before you. Now, prepare yourself for boot camp and beyond. It's time for the War Games to begin.
How we play a game.
I'm back. Jessica is joining the stage with us. Welcome back, Jessica. You took a hiatus, but you're back. We're glad to have you back. So,
thank you.
yes. Karan Nijhawan. I'll say it right eventually.
What's up, Joe? Hey, Jessica.
Hey, Karan. Thank you so much for coming on. I mean, what a topic. I mean, flat out to turn around and say, how do you build a personal brand? And I know you're the retreats guy. You're the guy who goes all over the world, right? Doing the retreats for people and helping people to do that. I'm going to bring up Brian Galkey. He just popped in. He was having technical difficulties over there with JR, who we kicked out earlier. But Karan, you've made yourself very successful. If you want to take a few minutes and share beyond what I put out into the intro, but share what's been your biggest success. What is it? The thing that, boom, this is you. Besides now on your shirt. What a great shirt.
Yeah, and I can explain what that means in a moment as well. So, hey,
Sure.
Everyone, welcome. My name is Karan. Super excited to be here. Brian, good to see you live. Jessica, hey. So a couple years ago, like almost a decade ago now, I heard the famous quote, "You're the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with." And I was at a point in my life where I looked at my 5 people and I really looked at those 5 people and I said, oh, crap. Like I need to make a huge change. If these are the people that are going to determine my future, and I follow suit with similar patterns, similar behaviors, and I think the way they do, I act the way they do, I strive for the same goals as they do, then I will become exactly like them. And I was new to networking at that time, but I knew very quickly I wanted to at least upgrade my 5 people. So what do you do when you want to upgrade your network? You start going to networking events, which I actually think are some of the worst places to go. And I was at a networking event, and you guys ever experience that moment where you're having a face-to-face conversation with someone, you're looking at somebody right in the eye, they've asked you questions that they don't really care to know the answers to. And as you're in a conversation, you start to realize that they're actually looking and scanning the room, wondering who else is in the room. Like it's like you don't even matter anymore, because when they ask you the dreaded question, what do you do? Immediately they place a value on you. And at that time, I was in a 9-to-5 job, striving to be an entrepreneur. So my title wasn't sexy, but immediately I felt so disrespected in that moment, Joe, that I thought, never again am I going to go to an event like this. And that was also the catalyst of me hosting what I now call human connection dinners, where I started hosting these localized dinner parties in East Coast Canada, where you weren't allowed to bring a business card and there was no dress code. I'm like, let me just get rid of the 2 things that people care about, their business card and their title, and how they appear on the outside to mask the insecurities of what's inside. So I started hosting these human connection dinners, selfishly, I thought the conversations at the dinner table, and by the way, I invited business owners who I didn't know to an unnetworking dinner, hoping to teach me about marketing and scale and how to grow. And all the conversations at that dinner table were about life, depression, relationships, money trouble, suicidal thoughts, wanting to shut down business, toxic relationships, stress, like the real stuff that keeps business owners up at night. And I left.
So you were at Brian's house?
I literally left that dinner, and I the next morning woke up, and it was a small dinner, 7 people. But the next day I woke up to 3 or 4 different emails just saying, when's the next one? And I thought, wow, like this is a really interesting thing. So dinner by dinner, I started to grow this personal brand, and people started calling me like the guy to go to for dinners and the guy to facilitate these dinner parties. Now, fast forward to 2024, I've done hundreds of dinner parties for myself, for companies that want to use these types of dinner parties for prospecting, for consultants that want to use dinner parties to grow their coaching funnels. And then the dinners turned into conferences, and the conferences turned into retreats. So everything was a stepping stone to what is now international retreats and events all over the world, whether it's Greece or Bali or Peru or in Canada or all across the US. I've hosted hundreds of these events. But the thing at the center of it is that if you can make someone feel seen, heard, and respected, they immediately position you as someone who actually gives a. And that's obviously becoming more and more difficult. I think people are prospects, if you will, are the smartest they've ever been. They're the most curious they've ever been. They're doing the most research they've ever done. They're being so careful with every dollar that's going out of their pockets. And what worked a year or 2 or 3 years ago for growth and scale is just not working anymore. So maybe I went a little bit all over the place, but I wanted to set some context as to why I think having a profitable personal brand matters more now than ever before.
Okay, 100%. And my ADHD is completely happy. I'm like, what do you mean you went all over the place? It was like the most logical flow that went on. Yes. So we're all okay with this one. But no, fantastic. So as you set up the not networking meetings, right? I have another friend of mine who does one, but he calls them connectology, where he brings people together to connect at a deeper level, right? When you took away the 2 things that everybody's judging everybody on, right? What a great way to strip everybody down to equal, right? And now it helps you not front, right? And then,
in fact, you know what? Great. We would get to the end of these. And by the way, when I say dinner party, I don't mean 2 hours. I'm talking 5-6 hours of very deep, intimate, powerful conversation, where one of my KPIs of my dinner parties, like I would go home and be like, was this event a success or not? My question was, did someone cry? And if the answer was yes, I was like, yes, this was an amazing success. And to this day, I do 8-day events in Bali and Peru, and I do dinner still. To this day, I kind of classify the success of my events as to looking back and say, did I create the space for someone to feel safe? Did I create an opportunity for someone to open up and sometimes shed years of baggage or trauma or limiting stories or beliefs or things that they haven't yet overcome in a safe setting where they felt so comfortable to do so? So I believe we all have superpowers. Everyone on this call has a unique magic or superpower, call it what you will. I know what one of mine is, and one of mine is creating these intimate environments. And I don't want to confuse small events and big events in terms of profitability. We can even get into the numbers of the profits of some of these events. But you're right. When you strip away the title and the mask of, wearing a suit and tie versus a t-shirt and jeans, it puts everyone on an equal playing field. And we would get to the end of these dinners, and then someone would be like, so what does everyone do here? Because the conversation was so good about life that nobody cared about trying to impress other people. Oh, I'm the CEO of this company. I've got this many employees. I exited. I've scaled. I've got this. This is where I travel. Like, those conversations were so secondary. And I think now, especially like with the rise of the solopreneur or the rise of these companies of one that are becoming so profitable around a single topic, it's, people are really buying your identity before they buy your work.
Well, I'm glad you clarified, because Joe likes to make people cry too, but in a different way.
Totally different way. Totally different way. The last event I had, needles in the chairs, but we do sit back. So here's what I like. So you set up an event, you can strip people down from the armor that they put on, right? So I want to flip it more towards now. How do I, for one, I think the biggest thing that people have, and I'll talk for myself, is building a brand, right? To build my personal brand without sounding that I'm arrogant, that I'm crapping on everybody, that, Brian and I share a friend of ours that, has no issue at all with telling you what a piece of crap you are. And that's, to him, is a social greeting. But when you look at it, I just sit back and go, building a personal brand, it takes something. Do you know what I'm saying? It takes something inside. And how do you get people? Because I think the switch isn't on the phone, right? The switch is inside of them to say, I need to have a personal brand, because I do all the work. Okay. And I'll only pick on myself. If you look at my social media, there's clips, there's videos, there's all kinds of stuff to put out the branding that is there. But what does it take to make a personal brand? Like, how do you define personal brand before we even go to building one? Yeah.
So I think there's so many definitions of a personal brand. The one that feels the best to me as of today in August 2024 is how others feel about you when you're not around. So a brand is not my logo. It's not my clips on social media. It's when someone consumes my content, how do they feel about themselves? What conversations was I able to open up for them? What beliefs was I able to help somebody overcome or uncover or discover for the first time in a long time? And when I say personal brand as well, it has so much more to do with, it has so little to do with the service that I provide. Actually, I think a brand actually transforms people's identities. So someone sees Joe as a sales genius, and they can bucket you into a category of Joe in sales. But wouldn't you say, Joe, that if someone betters their sales and also becomes a better dad, you've also helped them become a better dad? So how do you articulate, right? So how do you articulate that? It's because that's part of your brand too. And some people would shy away from that, and they would say, well, what does me helping other men becoming better fathers have to do with my business? I would argue it has everything to do with your business. Out of 10 consultants, out of 100 consultants that are pitching sales and how to close on the phone and how to overcome objections and how to have the best scripts for cold calls.
Right.
If you line up 17 consultants that all offer the same thing, I'm going to do business with a person I know, like, and trust. So your job and my job, and I believe business owners, especially like the 1 or 2 person business owners, your job is to have that trust pre-built through your content, AKA your branding. Because if 17 consultants can offer me the same solution, I'm going to do business likely with somebody who's also into health and fitness, who seems to have a great relationship at home, who loves to travel and explore like I do, who loves to read books. I look for similarities and I look for commonalities. And that's why the dinner parties were such a success, because Brian would talk about his love for the Los Angeles Lakers, and Joe would be like, oh my God, I was at a game when I was 17. And they become friends over something that has nothing to do with me or the dinner or what you guys do for a living. But now your bond for basketball has created this string of connection. And then you start talking about basketball, and all of a sudden, Brian starts telling you a story about his dad and how he took him fishing. And you're like, dude, my mom used to take me fishing. And again, it's got very little to do with like the push marketing I see in today's world. It's like push product, push service, push service. I think Seth Godin has a book called Permission Marketing or
permission-based marketing.
Permission-based marketing. And that's, I think we need to go back into that world.
You love Brian. He reads books like there's no
right. So it's like this brand is really not just about your logo or what you stand for or your company values. Or like when I used to have a 9-to-5 job when I was employable, you'd walk into the front door and you see the brand's mission, the core mission statement written on the wall of where we wear this big and proud. I'm like, yeah, but your managers don't even talk to each other. Like how are you guys living this publicly to me? How do you guys want me to push this as a junior level employee when I'm witnessing conversations through the glass doors,
right?
Where it's just this all day long. So that's one part of it. Another part of your personal brand, and this is something that takes a lot of work and it's not for everyone, is I would encourage anybody embarking on a personal brand of their own to ask themselves to go through an integrity shift exercise. What's an integrity shift exercise? is very simple. It's also one of the most difficult things you'll ever do. You get a blank sheet of paper. On one side, you write down all the places that you feel in your life you have been out of integrity. This is between you and yourself. It's not meant to be for social media or for your partner or, for an Instagram reel. Just ask yourself, honestly, like look in the mirror. Where have I been out of integrity? Be really honest with yourself. Like it's a very honest.
What's your definition for integrity? I think people have varying definitions of that one too.
I think it's subjective, right? I think everyone does have their own definition. To me, it's like, where did I say yes when I knew it was a no? That could be one part of it, right? I have said, for example, and you guys can let me know if this is true for you, but I have in the past taken on clients that I knew were not a good fit for me, but they could pay. So I enrolled them into my programs. So when you know better, hopefully you can do better. But for when you're first starting out, your quickest form of validation is let me get sales. You don't care who buys. You don't care if it's your mom, your uncle, your cousin. You're just trying to prove to yourself, I just got a Stripe notification. I'm in business. And you'll do anything you can to, convince or convert or coerce people into doing business with you. So is that in or out of integrity? For me, that's out of integrity, right? Where have I maintained relationships, Jessica, that I knew 6 months ago, I should have cut that string. That's me being out of integrity. Where have I been on the phone while my wife has been trying to talk to me? That's me being out of integrity. So there's so many facets of it. Where did I promise my dog I would take him for a 2-hour walk? And you know what? I thought, let me just work instead. I'll take you for 10 minutes instead. That's also being me out of integrity. Where did I keep my word to my best friends? Yeah, I'll meet you at the movies. And then, it's been a long week. Let me just cancel last minute. That's me being out of integrity. So there's so many facets of it. So
I think you could write a book just off of everything you were out of integrity with yourself.
Absolutely.
Right? Where you said, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Yeah.
Remember the 4 agreements? That's one of them. Was it I'll keep consistency with what I say I'll do, or I'll keep my word? I'll look it up. But yeah, it's in the 4 agreements. That's one of the 4 agreements.
Yeah, check it out. That's actually my wife's favorite book, I believe. I've never read it, oddly enough, but I know one of the agreements is don't take things personally. So I won't take it personally that I haven't read it. But I would love to hear the other 3.
I'm not mad at you.
I would love to hear the other 3. But the other part of that exercise is then also make a list of all the places you have been in integrity, the things that have made you feel like you're connected to yourself, the things that have given you energy or, connect you to what I call your higher power or your spiritual power or whatever you want to call it. And whether you're connected to God or faith, that's totally up to you. But I believe there's something greater pulling me or pushing me to keep discovering more of myself. So I made this list of where have I been in integrity, where I've been out of integrity. And I started to just notice patterns. And my job was simple and difficult at the same time. Any place that I feel like I'm out of integrity, I need to go close or go clean that closet, or I need to dump it out and start from scratch. Like I can't move forward until I'm feeling 100% in integrity with everything. And that was one of those exercises that you would benefit from doing multiple times over your lifetime. I'm not saying you have to do this every month, but once a year, yeah, New Year's, your birthday, whatever time you like to reflect in. But yeah, I think and here's the other thing. It's like me doing my own integrity shifts has also attracted a higher caliber and a better client for me. Coincidence? I don't think so. Isn't it weird when you clean out your own stuff and you let go of the 80% or the 20% that's causing you the 80% of the pain, that suddenly the right people start coming to you from every parts of life, from different connections, from connections you couldn't even make if you were just sitting on a laptop trying to brainstorm an idea. Like you could be in the park walking every single day, and all of a sudden this idea hits and you're like, where did that come from? Oh, it's because 3 weeks ago, I got very clear. I cleansed my soul of all the stuff that was keeping me clogged.
I'm curious, going through something kind of personal. You mentioned you used to be a 9-to-5er as well. That was my biggest struggle. Is it seemed like everybody I was surrounded with would only work on what may get them a small raise at work instead of trying to improve their life. And that's been the biggest shift. Is I don't begrudge anyone for working for a corporation. I used to do it. I thought that was the path for me. But now that I'm away from it, I realize that's not the environment I want to be in, where somebody's striving for a 4% raise every year. And then when you go on to a seminar, they're like, Well, is work paying for it? No. Well, then why are you going? Versus now you're in rooms where people are thinking 10 times bigger than I ever was as an employee. And the other thing, one of the things I love that you said earlier is I hate, what do you do? That's the worst question ever asked. So I like to teach people to say, hey, now that we can go on vacation again, where are you going next? Because people show up to work, but people plan their vacation. You'll learn more about someone by what they choose to do in their spare time than what job they may be in that they may hate, that now they subconsciously hate you for asking about it.
Yeah. And that question, what do you do, is so limiting.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of a more limiting question than placing someone's entire self-worth on a couple words that come out of their mouth so that you know where to bucket them in your brain, so that you feel safe and you feel congruent with your worldview, because most people see the world as like, it's either this or it's this. And if they can't figure out what's that gray, well, they're just going to bucket you into whatever fits their worldview. So if I ask someone, what do you do? And they say, I'm a sales trainer. Immediately my mind buckets them into what I believe a sales trainer is. And I could be totally wrong, by the way.
Right.
And then I'm not saying for me, I'm saying in society, then that sales trainer is like bucketed into, oh, that guy, yeah, he's a sales trainer. You know what? I already got a sales trainer. I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's so limiting.
Part two, sorry, Joe, for interrupting. But I looked at your website before you came on today, and you look like you're in better physical health now too than what's on your website, right? So there's a picture of you in the background, kind of hidden behind a lot of people, but you looked smaller then. So like, did you also, when you started going down this journey, is that when you found your health along with your mental health?
150%.
Okay.
And one of my personal goals, and so I love kickboxing. I discovered kickboxing 3 months ago, and I go 6 days a week now.
Muay Thai or regular?
Just regular kickboxing.
Oh, that'll do.
I'm not quite an expert like Brian yet, you know. But dude, so I go kickboxing 6 days a week. That's helped me, you know, physically change. Another thing I do is, for the most part, all my Zoom calls now are walk and talks. So I get 20,000 steps a day. 20,000 steps a day.
Yeah.
I'm out, I'm working, I'm on my personal brand. That's why I said, you know, phone or Wi-Fi. I should have said phone, Wi-Fi, and or data. But right, I'm working while I'm like, again, like, because we're in business for ourselves, we can now question, what is work? Does work mean you have to sit behind a laptop and do this? Can work not mean you taking a meeting while you're in the woods while also brainstorming future retreat ideas? Can work not mean I can take a sales call in a DM instead of a call?
Mm-hmm.
Can work not mean I can do client check-ins while I'm sitting in the park? So for me, it's like, and maybe it's also beautiful weather where I am right now in Toronto. It's summer. So for me, getting outside every day has become a non-negotiable. And I've realized that anytime I move my body, Brian, I'm just a happier dude. So I thought, you know what, if I move my body more, then everything else will take care of itself. Whereas last year, when I was doing my integrity shifts, I ranked money and finances as the number one value on my list of things that were important to me. And when I did that, everything else took a back seat, AKA relationships, health, my connection to faith. Everything took a back seat. This year, the roles have been reversed. I've placed a greater emphasis on my family, on my fitness, on my faith. And now I'm making what I would call, and this is a term that one of my mentors calls it, he says, I'm now making authentic money.
Mm-hmm.
And authentic money to me feels so much better than non-authentic money.
So Joe, is it me, or do you get a hint of Robbie and when he's talking?
I do. I do. I was going to say Jessica knows Robbie too. Yes. And
Okay.
so,
Yeah.
So Robbie's a
we have a friend
superstar. Robbie's
yeah.
this good-looking dude who's just
oh
always
yeah,
on
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. He literally, we'll have to send you his content. Unfortunately, he passed away a few months ago, but he would go out and just into the wilderness and go hiking and meditate. And he did his business and everything from that. He was a guy who started out as a gangster rapper as a young kid. And this guy was into
Much
everything.
like all of us.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, we know Joe's in that thug life. So
Right. Yeah. True statement.
But yeah, exactly what you're saying is that's what a lot of what our friend Robbie did is he would just go and disappear in the woods and work on his business from there. And his content was amazing. And he would just put his mind into doing things and out and those experiences, ideas would just flow to him nonstop.
Yeah, man. That's why, you guys ever have like some of your best ideas in the shower? Right? It's
Yeah.
like prime thinking time. No phone, no distractions, just you with, soothing water hitting your back. Or like when you're going to get a massage or you're at the spa and all of a sudden an idea hits, or you're riding a bike, or you're kickboxing, or you're at the movies and all of a sudden you make a connection. Sometimes I find business owners, we really try to force our work. So like we look at a blank sheet of paper and we're like, okay, today is production day. Okay, I need to come up with ideas now. Okay, let's go. Okay, you know what? I need a coffee first. Let me go make my coffee. And I come back. Okay, you know what? Let me go get another coffee. And it's just, again.
Let me sharpen my pencil. And we don't even have pencils anymore. Yes.
Actually, I've got a pencil right here.
But it's mechanical.
I know.
Yes.
I do love
to
pencils.
sharpen it.
But Robbie, Brian, one thing you were saying that's really interesting is the whole, when you worked in corporate and everyone was kind of pursuing that 4% raise, because that's what we've been trained to believe is success. And I come from a very small city in a small town where that was success. It's like you get the highest paying job, you stay there for 40 years, you never question it. If you're lucky, you'll move up through the ranks, and consider yourself lucky that you get 3 weeks vacation. And my parents also instilled that in me. They said, my parents told me at a young age, and I think this kind of messed me up. They said something along the lines, I'm paraphrasing, but they said 6 figures will solve everything.
Yeah, ditto.
I was the most miserable the first job I ever had where I made 110 grand. The most miserable. I only lasted 6 months. In fact, I was way happier making 50K base and then commissions. I ended up making like 75K that year. But man, I was happy. I was being promoted. Everyone in the company knew me. I was getting like this notoriety, maybe little hits to my ego. And then I left that company for a company who came to me, who made a very attractive offer and said, what's your base? And I told them, and they're like, cool, well, we'll double it to start. So how about that? And I was like, done. Because you know what? Mom and dad told me 6 figures solves everything. And I lasted, I want to say 5, maybe 6 months if I'm being generous, but 5, I think. And that's also, among many things, that's what gave me the courage to actually start my business in 2019. And also like meeting my now wife, who was then my girlfriend, because she had a business. Like there's so many connections, of course, that we can get into. But your whole thing about these 4% raises reminds me of a story of the woman wearing a red dress in Iceland. Have you guys ever heard that one?
I've seen the red dress in the Matrix. Is it similar?
So actually, I'll let you decide. So there's a woman who's been saving up for a trip to Iceland. And as she's saving up, she decides to buy this beautiful red dress to wear in Iceland during her photo shoots. So she gets to Iceland. She's wearing this beautiful red dress. She's on a tour bus with 100 other people. They get to their first stop, the first waterfall. The tour guide says, all right, everyone, you have 6 hours to go explore. We'll meet you back here in 6 hours. 100 people on the bus. All 100 people get off the bus. She goes into the change room, gets out of her red dress, puts on her hiking gear, goes exploring. 6 hours later, comes back. She's at the back of the line, getting on the bus. And all she hears is that there's this commotion at the front of the bus. She's at the very back of the bus, so she can't really understand what's going on. But at the front of the bus, they're saying, we can't leave yet because the woman in the red dress hasn't yet returned. We need to account for all passengers. There's a woman in the red dress who hasn't yet returned. She's at the very back. She doesn't hear this. So by the time she gets to the front of the line, all she hears is that we can't leave. There's a woman missing. So they start to form this search party. They start going in groups of search parties looking for this woman. The only person who doesn't know what search party she's in is herself. 6 hours go by, 8 hours go by. They call in the National Guard. A day goes by. Finally, does she discover this entire time she's been searching for herself?
But aren't we all searching for ourselves? Oh, sorry. Never mind. That's a different lesson. Yeah.
Well, it's connected. And to Brian's point, we join these search parties of 4% will be the solution. If we just get a 4% raise this year, let me just join that search party and see how it is. When we don't even know what the people in those search parties are looking for. So we just jump from goal or dream or search party to search party, sometimes not even questioning whose search party are we in?
Yeah.
And you always hear, at least I always hear, when people have a death scare or they have something happen, it's like something clicks. Like, oh, I had a health scare. You know what? Now I'm going to start eating healthy. Or your friend suddenly passes away, which is happening more and more, like unexpected deaths, and at least in some of my circles. I'm like, what? The person was so healthy. How did this happen? It's happening. But it's just to me, whenever I see everybody going this way, I'm not saying I immediately go that way, but I do question what search party are people a part of? And is that something that I want to partake in? And more often than not, the answer is no.
No, that's fantastic. Brian, did you notice I left my tinfoil hat off when he gave me the opening
waiting.
there?
So I bit my tongue too, because I was going to say Joe found himself when he found a red dress. So it's a completely different story.
Totally different one.
You guys are hilarious.
when he said people were, I was like,
I know.
No, stop.
I was waiting.
Stop. Yes, I'll behave. Okay, so now, right, I've been jotting down my little notes here. Okay, so your personal brand defined as how do people feel after they work with you or watch you or view your content, right? So that's what I'm judging on. What is my personal brand? I also saw somebody go into Chat GPT and load their Instagram up and told it to go and review their brand voice. And then it went in there and said, oh, let me tell you about what you are, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, okay, that's great to at least find out, right? Are you off pace of what you think? Because I do believe we all see ourselves one way, whether or not we're portraying it, right? And that's where I always tell everybody, feedback loop, right? Have somebody give you back what you think you are saying to somebody. The integrity shift exercise was great, which is look and say, when am I in integrity? When was I out of it? Go back and forth. Let's find this is the areas I have to work on to get myself out. Because as you pointed out in your life, what happened was you started vibrating at a different frequency when you were no longer being incongruent, as I call it, right? Where you were out of integrity, which means you attracted better people to you. Because again, we don't always acknowledge it, but there's certain things about people that make you feel uneasy. And you don't know what it is, and you can't go, it's because of this, and put your little pin in it, but there is something, right? Your video in the beginning that you sent to me, that you send out to people, you were like, I just want you to get a feel for my energy, right? And how I talk and who I am to see if we're going to be a fit. That's brilliant, because a lot of people don't do that, and it's just a picture of somebody going, do you think the person can speak English? Do you think the person can actually make a sentence together, right? Or do they just have a great PR team that is putting it out there for them? So that's fantastic. So now I've got myself cleaned up. What's the next step for building that brand and going?
Yeah, I think the question becomes, what do I want to do when I grow up? And I'm a big fan of not mortality, but I do think about death quite a bit. And there's a book that came out, I'm sure Brian would love if he hasn't already read it, called 4,000 Weeks.
No.
And it's called
I've got the calendar.
You've got the calendar.
I've got the calendar on my wall to cross it off. Yep.
So I think about those 4,000 weeks quite a bit. And for 4,000 weeks, for those listening, is the average life expectancy of a human in North America. So they say as of today, and science is always improving and this and that, but they say that the average man lives to 78 and the average woman lives to like 81 or 82. Mm-hmm. And you round that out in weeks, and it's about 4,000. Now that's 4,000 assuming that we were born today. So if we're above 40 years old, you don't have to raise your hands, but if you're above 40, you're past the 2,000 mark.
Mm-hmm.
So if you had 2,000 weeks to live, what would you want to do when you grow up? And I think about that a lot. I realize like every breath I take is energy, Joe, is me giving. This is a conversation I'm having with you where I could have been on the phone with my grandma. I could have been calling my grandfather, whose birthday is in the next 2 days. And he's turning 95 or 96, right? So this is all energy. So if you're clear on what you want to do, I think if you want to, anytime someone wants to raise their level of income, the easiest way to raise your income is to raise your level of contribution or service.
Mm-hmm.
And most marketers, again, we talked about push and pull earlier. I don't like to typically, me personally, like I think it's very hard to create demand for a product or service, but it's a lot easier to channel that demand. And channeling that demand could be, what is your magic? What do you feel like you were put on this earth to do? What is that thing that people call you for, looking for advice? What's that thing? They're like, oh, Brian, I know you're really good at this thing. Can I just pick your brain? Joe, I know you're amazing at this thing. If people are asking you those questions, hey, they might be telling you something. Like that's could be part of your magic. So to me, I'm a big believer. Anyone can turn their magic into income. So if you know what your magic is and you have an income desire, I mean, the next question is, how much do you want to make? My parents told me 6 figures. I never questioned it. My mistake.
Right.
Was that the number? And when I hit that number, actually for the first year, things got worse. The next year, things got better. The next year, things got better. So, again, you learn as you go on, but I'm starting to realize that the real prize here for most business owners is we think, this arrival syndrome of when I hit this number, we will then be happy. I really believe that like the process that we're all on and the process that we offer to our clients is the product. So like document your process and it will help feed more of your product. I don't think people have to push their products as much. If you just showed some behind the scenes, and I've got a list of things, by the way, that business owners can start sharing immediately to start getting more noticed online, which we can happily dive into. But I believe that if we're trying to make sales right now and we're realizing that the world is shifting and people are being smarter with their investments, and if every consultant or coach or mentor kind of offers the same thing, what's going to stand out is that personal brand. And I've got a list of things that I think could help people build a profitable one.
I'm game to listen to a list of those things.
I am
Cool.
too.
Well,
I have a question also. I have a question when you're done with that. So you're not known as the class guy, but you're known as the retreats guy. So after you give us the list, I'd love to hear what changed it from like a one-day event where people come in to learn to a retreat, because this year, as a speaker in 2024, a lot of people are having a hard time selling tickets to events. So I think the event space is suffering, but I see retreats selling out.
It makes total sense. Here's why. Because, and listen, I'm not against big events, but big events make me feel like that guy I met at a networking event who was already scanning the room.
Right.
Big events is like, oh, what's your name tag? Oh, what do you do? Oh, okay, cool. Oh, you have a QR code? Let me scan that real quick. And let me go to keep networking with someone else.
Right. Let me go find a bigger fish.
Dude, if I have to go to another event and wear a crappy lanyard that more often than not actually doesn't even spell my name properly, because as somebody who doesn't have a North American name, my name is constantly misspelled. And I hate going to a big event, putting on my lanyard and immediately looking at my name because it's the sweetest sound that we all have.
Agreed.
Being like, really? Like I bought my ticket 6 months ago. You couldn't just do one quick double check of like the W.
You couldn't have copy paste from the app I filled out. Yeah.
I am not a Karen.
Oh, absolutely. And that's a separate conversation. But, it's like, and then
I think it's going to be bad if we were all in the same room together. It would just, yeah.
No, but, I've been to events where then I'm wearing a lanyard and they don't have like the technology to reprint one. So I'm walking around with either my name misspelled incorrectly or misspelled, or they're like, hey, here's a Sharpie.
Sharpie. We love it.
I'm like, really? So now I'm that guy who's like a guy who just snuck into the conference.
We all believe that somebody canceled and you took their spot. That's what we believe, right?
Yeah. Oh, this guy. Yeah.
We're like the guy who was really important. He couldn't make it. He had other real stuff to do. Yep. Yeah, and sent you in his place.
Hey, I go to the business center in the hotel and I go print out my own and I tape it onto whatever they've got so I don't have to use a Sharpie. I'm like, F you guys.
Smart move. So I think, I'm seeing a lot of my friends even actually are struggling in the big event space. And these are friends who do a couple hundred to up to 1,000 person events, some on cruise ships, some at hotels. So they do both land events and what he calls sea events. And even he's seeing a huge decrease in event ticket sales. And I'll tell you why I believe that is. I believe that people don't want average anymore, and they want something hyper specific to their desires and their solutions. It is very difficult to go to an event that's promoting like 17 speakers. I keep saying the number 17 a lot today for some reason. 17 speakers that, okay, well, he's going to cover sales. Okay, they're going to cover mindset. Okay, they're going to cover tactics. Okay, they're going to cover social media marketing. Okay, they're going to cover email copy. It's like buying a bunch of books that you know you're never going to read, but it makes you feel good in the moment, right?
Right. They don't want the self-help buffet.
No,
right? They
what
want an actual
but
specialty.
what they get in the process is a shelf help buffet.
True statement.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of these events, it's like every industry is different, every niche is different. But if you have the same speakers speaking at every event, that's a 3-month gap in the event. It's like, why would I go to this one and that one, or not that one or that one? So I'm seeing more and more like specificity. The more people that are doing niche events are rocking it. And I know people that do 100, 400, 600 person events, which are still small compared to some people, that are losing money on the event just because they want to build this brand.
Mm-hmm.
So like, yeah, right. I'm talking losing 6 figures of their own money, but to the Instagram world, the event looks like a massive success because you have speakers and you have AV and you've got signs and you've got catered lunches and you've got networking and you've got parties and you've got sponsored booths. Yeah, if I was an attendee, I'd be like, wow, this is a cool event. This guy must have crushed it. And then I'm having private conversations with the event organizers being like, this was the worst idea ever. And then I'm seeing people with 10, 15, 20 person retreats making 6 figures of revenue. I had a client, Brian, this is one of the most bizarre niches. She teaches laughter yoga. Laughter yoga is exactly what you think. You fake laugh so much that the brain thinks you're actually laughing, and it reduces the same chemicals as laughter, and it relieves stress. This woman started marketing a laughter yoga retreat for women in healthcare, sold out in like 47 days.
Wow.
Better than goat yoga.
I've done that. I've done it, and it was okay. But it's so interesting. So like you have, and again, would you rather lose 25, 50, 100 grand on an event just because you wanted to do a big event, maybe for ego, maybe for fame, maybe for branding? I don't know. Or would you rather just like be famous to a specific group of people? And I say famous lightly. I don't mean like a celebrity, but like kind of a celebrity. Like, could you go help the people where you were 5 years ago? Absolutely. I think that's also part of your magic. Sometimes people are like, well, I'd love to do a retreat and I'd love to attract people, but who would buy and what would I teach? And simple question is, well, what have you overcome in the last 5 years? And then they start listing off all these amazing things. I'm like, that might be a good starting point. So I think a lot of people are actually going to smaller events that are more custom, more tailored to a specific goal, a specific desire, rather than going to just like a fluff buffet, as Joe called it, and just getting like a piece of this, a piece of this, a piece of this. I think the world of transformation is changing faster than ever. And I think people are paying for belongingness to be a part of a tribe or a community that actually gets them. And again, when I said earlier, commonality, even saying women in healthcare, that's not me. That's not Joe. So the person that would
Brian, maybe.
Yeah. So the person who goes to that event, is like, yeah, that event's for me.
Right. And they tell other people that they work with, that they're in the same industry with, that's the event to go to. Correct. Right. And it's self-perpetuating. So Brian, I know you got to drop off really quick. You had one other question. Do you want to?
No, he answered what I wanted. Just what's the difference between retreats and, just events? And he answered that. I'm going to stay on for a few minutes. I'm actually just went live on EG so other people can see this, and I'll stay on until top of the hour. Then I'll drop.
Okay. And to Brian, I didn't know retreats were going to be the thing that like as a byproduct. Again, I was thinking so much about the process. I was like, when's my next dinner? When's my next dinner? When's my next dinner? After about 150 of them, other opportunities started appearing. Right? Could you believe that even during the pandemic, companies would pay $7,000 to $10,000 for me to facilitate a 2-hour Zoom dinner, where I was facilitating like an MC with music, breakout rooms, but I was facilitating again. And by the way, Jessica, people were also crying on those Zoom parties because it's not about the bread. It's not about the restaurant. It's not about the ambiance of the music. It's the same, the thread that is consistent in my business is people feel a little bit better about themselves when they leave. So much so that a year from now, 6 months from now, sometimes 90 days from now, their life does change. I had a guy come to one of my retreats, Brian, who I didn't know, but he was struggling with porn addiction. His wife caught him in the act of virtual porn addiction. And it was a do or die situation for this guy. He was on the brink of divorce, a father of 2 kids. He came to my event. I had no idea he was struggling with this, but the space that I created was safe enough for him to feel like he could share it, and he wouldn't be judged by it. And we went to a meditation together, and all of a sudden he had this meditation. He had some connection to his brother who he hadn't talked to, and one thing led to another. And now he's, over almost 3 years sober since my event. Do I take credit for that? Absolutely not. Do I feel like I had 1% part of his success? I think so.
Awesome.
So I think like the progression was always, the dinner parties led to the virtual dinner parties during the pandemic, led to companies being like, hey, could you do this for my clients so that my clients, trust us more? I'm like, yeah, cool. I think that would work. And then clients would say, well, can we do like a lead generation dinner? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. I think that would work, because the root of it is we're just building connections. Mm-hmm. And even the virtual dinner parties, when I was doing them for clients and prospects, they weren't about the company's product. They weren't about the company's service. It was about conversations like what we're having. We created a space for someone to be like, integrity shift. I've never heard that before. Let me go do one. And then 6 months later, be like, Joe, that integrity shift, my marriage has never been better because you told me to write down where I've been out of integrity. And I went home and I did it. And I told my wife all the ways that I haven't been showing up. And now my business has tripled. It's like, well, we didn't talk about business, but we created some sort of an identity shift. We helped this guy connect with your personal brand, and all of a sudden, Joe's the guy who makes people feel better.
Awesome. It's accurate too, but yes. Okay, perfect. So, all right, Karan, this is what I need from you. I got to wrap up, and I appreciate everything you've dumped into us. It's been amazing. And so, give me 3 things somebody needs to do today to get themselves to at least start pushing that brand forward. And then, is the retreatsguy.com the best place for someone to reach out to you and contact you?
Cool. I love this. So the first thing is speak as if you've already been canceled.
Man, I still got to do that. And you're going to say you don't do that already, but I do. I should be doing that.
Release that with Joe.
Yeah.
That's a tough one. That's a tough one.
It's like it's the posts that you're like, should I say this? Should I not say this? It makes your heart rate go up a little bit, and you're like, post, no draft, no edit, no post, no draft. You know what? Let me just delete this, and then you don't post for 3 weeks because you haven't found the right thing to say yet. That's the thing I believe needs to be said. That's number 1. The first thing is speak as if you've already been canceled. Number 2 is start filming like 2 to 3 minute micro content videos. 2 to 3 minute, just documenting your journey throughout the day. Hey, what's up? Just leaving kickboxing, on the way home to do XYZ. You know what? The less you talk about your product and service, oddly enough, the more money you'll make. The more you talk about your product or service, the more you blend in with everybody else out there that's just talking about their product and service. And I think it's easy to sit behind a laptop and write an article. It's easy to create an edited reel, but to go on video and speak from the heart, I think it's going to start separating people. It's going to start separating people that, like to Joe's point, who can actually have a conversation and have some depth, versus the people that are just sending a selfie video or a selfie photo. Be like, yep, that's me. I promise. Who here has lied on their resume? I have, because qualifications were like 10 years of experience. I was like, I got 10 months. It's kind of the same, right? Right. So
tomato.
Second thing is really just doubling down on this small micro content. And the third thing is just start having more honest conversations with yourself. I think people actually don't need more books, more courses, more podcasts, more videos to consume. I think a walk in the park sometimes can do more wonders than 17. There's that number again. What's going on today?
Again?
Yeah, I think like just
go play roulette.
Spending more time where your screen is not in sight, is only going to benefit every other part of your life. And then the two places, if you're a current business owner and you have a program or content that you currently teach people and you're thinking, how do I turn my existing content into a 2.5-day event? Go to the retreatsguy.com and there's a free 11-minute training video on how to turn your existing content into the structure of a 2.5-day event. It's really cool. It also breaks down a case study of where we made $186,000 on one of our 2-day retreats. And then the second place is KaranNijhawan.com, which is my full name. And that's where I'm just every week I share 3 to 5 different articles about topics like this, integrity shifts, things that are, again, not about retreats necessarily. It's just how to be a better human, which I think is a transferable skill.
Fantastic. Brian, anything before we depart?
No, I already followed you on Instagram. I couldn't find you because there's several people with your name, so I wasn't sure which one was you. So I found the Retreats Guy on Instagram, just added you a few minutes ago. And thank you for all this today and for putting up with Joe and I.
Yeah.
So, and Jessica, I didn't apologize for because she seems really nice. It's that's why I didn't have to apologize for
Right. Right. So perfect. Okay. Thank you, Karan. Thank you. Jessica, do you have anything?
Honestly, like, this was so timely. You answered all the questions that I had in my brain because I'm literally in the process of building up my personal brand too. So selfishly, I really love this topic. Like, it was perfect timing, Joe. Thank you. Like, awesome. I love it. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. Again, I truly appreciate you, Karan. You brought it. Okay. I'm going to tell you, you brought it, and there's enough for us to walk away from. We'll quote Mo Rock with "Wow." Okay. So that's where we're at. But so I do want to say thank you so much, my VIPs. Thanks for being here. The people that are out there watching with us, go out and sell something. Thanks, everybody.